Go back out.
Are you going to do like Belichick at the draft? Have him open the meeting?
I know, right?
The dog behind the laptop.
Yeah. The special guest, Toby the dog. All right. What do we get started?
Yeah, probably.
7:34. All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Although my laptop timed out, so give me one quick second. Technology. There we go. Okay. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Hopewell Valley Regional Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof communicated to the Times and the Trentonian on January 7th, 2020. This meeting notice was also sent to Comcast Cable and Verizon Fios. The board reserves the right to enter into executive session during all meetings of the Board of Education. The meeting is being videotaped for purpose of board review, future reference, preparation of the minutes, and viewing on the school district website, www.hvrsd.org. Mr. Calavita, roll call, please.
Ms. Grillo.
Present.
Mr. Herbert.
Here.
Ms. Lindhorst.
Here.
Ms. Long.
Here.
Mr. Mason.
Here.
Ms. Murray.
Here.
Ms. O'Reilly.
Here.
Mr. Sawicki.
Here.
And Ms. Tracy.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Would you now please join me in either saluting or reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, and justice for all. Thank you. I'd like to request a motion to approve the minutes of the March 9th work session, please.
Second.
In favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries. I'd also like to request a motion to approve the minutes of the regular meeting and closed meeting of March 16th, 2020.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Don't believe our student representative to the board is with us, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So I will make a very brief report since I had a rather lengthy report last Monday. As we move into this session on the budget, I just wanted to thank everyone for their participation, all of the board members. This is a lengthy process that began back in July. And we spent many hours in work sessions and presentations and discussions leading up to this point. I'd like to say that, I think the board has made some great suggestions and has had some great ideas that we've utilized this year, such as the addition of the departmental budget presentations, the joint presentation session that we had with our municipal officials, during which time we received the report on equalization from the Mercer County Tax Assessor's Office. And I think these sessions have all afforded board members a different level of understanding, insight into the budget process. I'd like to commend the board for your attention and suggestions during this process, which has enhanced it for all of us. And I'd also like to offer my thanks to the administration and staff for leading, especially the departmental sessions, and for being with us along the way. So thanks to all of you for your dedication. And I think each year the process gets better and better, and we all find different ways to participate. So thank you very much. With that, I just wanted to make mention of some of our long-term staff members who are retiring, and thank them for their service. Cynthia Davidson at Tollgate, Marianne Calvo, Stony Brook, Karen Lucci at Central High School, and Lynn Angelis at Stony Brook. There's also someone by the name of Tony Suzo, but I'm sure we'll be talking more about that on another day. But I would like to thank all of you for your continued service. The board appreciates your commitment and dedication to the students of this district, and we wish you all the best in your retirement. And with that, I will hand it over to our superintendent of schools, Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Deb. Well, I won't provide a long update either, since we discussed the same thing last week, but I would like to just provide a remote learning update for everyone. We still have our remote learning survey. To date, we have 1,500 responses. We have over 1,000 parent responses. So just as a general, so once we have all of those, we'll be able to slice and dice them by school and by level, to give some good feedback about what's going on. As I mentioned last week, we know that we do have some inconsistencies across our schools and across our grade levels, and we're working hard to address those. Particularly on the elementary school, we're moving towards much more structure going forward. That's one thing we've received some feedback from parents and also from staff members. So having a more unified structure across the district of our expectations, not only for staff, but for our students and ultimately for parents. So they know going into this that there's going to be a morning meeting every morning, and that parts of that and all the expectations. The other big part that we actually discussed about a little last week is making sure the specials are having their time each week for students to interact with. So that'll also be part of this retooling on the elementary level. In general, though, I want to acknowledge our staff and our administrators. They're working incredibly hard. I know that, today I had, I think, 7 online meetings. I know our building principals are meeting regularly with our staff members, making sure that they're getting supported. Some of the initial results from the survey are favorable, and I appreciate a lot of it around communication, parents feeling supported by the district, knowing where to go to get information. So all of that really makes me feel positive. Again, we know that we do have some areas that we need to improve on, and we're going to work hard to address that. But I do want to acknowledge our staff who are working incredibly hard. I know our teachers in particular are really, really working hard just to make sure that they're doing everything they can to make this experience meaningful for our students. So I'd like to give a shout out to all of them. I've jumped into a lot of classes, jumped into a lot of faculty meetings, just saying thank you and just continuing with that. It's not perfect. It's not where we want to be, but I think we've made huge strides since we returned from spring break. And looking at an uncertain future, we will continue to work hard to make sure that every minute of every day is meaningful for our students. Because it's, ultimately it's important for us to make sure that every student knows that we're cared about and that we are here for them, not only academically, but for their mental health. So with that, I just want to kind of end where I began and just saying a huge thank you to our staff, huge thank you to our board and kind of going through this, the guidance that we've received from everybody, some feedback, some thoughts about whether it's graduation or moving up. That all means a lot, and we're going to do everything we possibly can to make all of those end of the year events exciting and meaningful for them. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I have a senior, my oldest is a senior now, so I'm experiencing the same thing as those parents of seniors. And I know what it's like, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that they have a good experience. And Tana, the high school principal, has some great ideas of acknowledging our seniors as we round out the school year. I also received an email from a parent who's convinced that I know when we are going to return to schools. I do not know when we are going to return to schools. If and when we return to schools, we will do our best to make that a meaningful, a well thought out entrance back into schools. We are convening a committee, a re-entry to school committee. Our first meeting will take place on Thursday to move forward with that and talk about all of those things that are going to need to be addressed when we return to school. So with that, we have representatives from everybody, from food service, from the building principals, from everybody in between, of making sure that our buildings are ready for our staff is ready, and addressing any of those. If you've read any of the CDC recommendations or any of the state recommendations that might come down, of making sure that we have met all of those needs to make sure our students and staff are comfortable, safe, and secure in our environment when we do return. So my long-winded response, I will say, just echoing your comments as we transition into the school budget hearing, Ms. Linthorst, that I really appreciate everyone's feedback. Just say, this budget, we did our best to develop this budget as we go forward, knowing that we have a lot of uncertainties in the year to come, that we'll address a little of those in one of the slides. But other than that, you have a lot of people on the board, a lot of elected officials who are doing their best to balance the needs of the taxpayer with the needs of our students with an uncertain future. I think that this budget provides all of those things as best as we possibly can. And it gives me great pleasure to provide this presentation to you this evening and make this recommendation to the board.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We appreciate that. If I could pause for a moment for a procedural note. A couple of folks have told me they can't get into the meeting via the links, but I think we do have others that have joined us since. So I'm not sure if maybe it is working now, or if we need to, if there's anything else we can do at this moment to go through Facebook, Dr. Treese says.
Yes, I had the same trouble. I went through Facebook and was able to get in.
Okay, thank you. Let me text that to a few people and hopefully they'll spread the word. Okay. And that's, you mean on the district website, correct? That the link is provided?
Yes,
on the district
Facebook page,
yep.
You'll see the link right at the top where it says board meeting.
Gotcha. Thank you. Okay. Well, hopefully that will allow some other folks to join us that are looking to do so. Would it help for us to, if we reposted that to Facebook right now, would that give people a notification that they could come in that way? I don't know.
Yeah, I
don't think
the link on the website.
Out.
The link on the website works, and I'm going to try the calendar now.
Does it? I had people say the calendar didn't work and the board docs link didn't work.
Yeah, it's not bringing you in. It's bringing you to the screen where it's asking for a nickname or a password for the meeting.
Okay.
But the one on Facebook works. I don't know why that is.
Do you want me to repost it, Deb?
I don't know if that would help. It might send a notification to people who follow the page. It would flash up on their phone, or on their computer.
I'll do it now.
Gina said it should work.
Yeah, Gina made a comment saying she updated Word doc, so it should work now.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Hopefully that will help others to join us. So with that, yes, my cat is going to join as well. So with that, we will move on to the public hearing and special opportunity for public comment on the 2021 budget. Dr. Smith, would you start us off, please, with the presentation of the 2021 budget?
Absolutely. I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to present our budget. Give me 1 second. All right. Can everyone see the presentation? Give it a second.
Yeah.
Yes, it's up.
Got it?
Yep.
Okay. Slow internet at the board office, budget cuts, sorry. Alrighty, so this evening is our final budget presentation. Assuming the board approves this evening's budget, it will be sent off for the county for the final approval. And the changes will be made in the user-friendly budget because we have revised the budget from the tentative budget. So the schedule, here we are. We've had a number of discussions in our official budget discussions. And also there's budget, all of this budget info is available from our district website. There's a budget button there and you can see all of this information. There you will see all the information from this year's budget, but also from last year's budget so you can compare. Again, some quick facts. You've seen this before, but just as of today, we have 3,466 students. When we transport students, over 3,000 students are transported every day. We have 6 school buildings, 1 admin and 1 maintenance and transportation building. We have 403 teachers and 277 additional staff. We have 24 administrators. And those of you who follow along with the district factor groups, we are an I. Something, again, I'd like to hit on and bring everyone's attention to is I consider Hopewell Valley an incredibly unique school district. One of those things that makes us unique is our small schools and our small class sizes. On our elementary level, I wouldn't be surprised if every principal knows every student's name, knows their families, knows what they need to support them. That's, again, just something that makes us special. On the middle school, again, is a manageable size, as is the high school. We have an extraordinary number of student programs and opportunities, a number of student support services that we're very proud of. We have a highly experienced teaching staff and programs that significantly exceed the state minimums. Our art, music, world language, library, nursing, counseling, all of the programs virtually that we provide exceed what is the minimum that is required by the state. That's something that boards have supported over the years and that we have done our best to make sure that they're doing everything they can to support students. So as a taxpayer, it's important to recognize the return on your investment. Here are just some highlights of things that we've brought home in terms of supporting our students. We were dedicated to developing a whole child before it was a fad or before it was a hip term. It's really how we developed the district. Some a decade ago, basically, and dedicating ourselves to making sure that we are providing a student that is well-rounded and ready to take on the challenges of the world. Academics, we've really honed our inquiry-based instructional model, making sure that students have opportunities to take higher level classes. Our ratings in our various periodicals show that we consistently rank amongst the top in the state of New Jersey, as well as the country. Arts and music, we're consistently recognized by others. Our athletic programs, again, we have numerous state titles and regional titles. Our finance and facilities, I will embarrass Bob here, that we have been recognized by the Association of School Business Administrators for, I believe it is 7 years now, Bob, for your budgeting and accounting practices. We are coming to the end of our referendum projects. I think we have, if not the last, one of the last projects on the agenda for approval this evening. All of our schools have been recognized by Sustainable Jersey for our greening efforts, and we continue to get ranked highly in terms of our accolades. We've had a lot of budget discussions. Those of you who've been at the board, I apologize. It is important for our community and for our board to have a thorough understanding of where each dollar is going in our district. And we had these full kind of public board discussions, but also an additional 6 informal budget presentations over the last 4 months. The most recent were held last Thursday. But all these presentations are available under the on our website under budget. You've heard this before, but I'll just go through it briefly. But you know, how we build a budget is we evaluate existing programs, evaluate them against our district goals, our enrollment projections, and our assessment data. We have to allocate our dollars for our fixed or increasing expenses like staffing, making sure that they are the first that we have budgeted. We do complete line by line budget reviews of our curricular initiatives and major expenses, and we plan for the future. This one is, you know, going to be a unique one, but we do try to address our facilities as much as we possibly can. As you've heard before, we have several buildings that are 90 plus years old, and it's important for us to maintain not only their character, but maintain their abilities to house students and staff. That takes a lot of care. Those of you who have older homes recognize that it takes more work to take care of those. So we do that. So our budget priorities for this year, maintaining all existing programs and services was a priority. Continue to provide a rigorous academic program that meets or exceeds the core content standards. We have to continue to review and revise our curriculum. That means updating our curriculum, writing new curriculum on a regular basis, providing class size that's in accordance with Board of Education policies, continue to provide and expand where possible elective and special educational and athletic opportunities for students, and continue to maintain and improve our district technology and infrastructure. And that's something that's really helped us. Oh, I should have updated this. This was for the park, but I really should acknowledge the work of our technology department and the foresight of our Board of Education. The reason why we are able to do remote learning as well as we possibly can right now is because of our Chromebook initiative, our one-to-one initiative that we put in place for a number of years ago. That really has given us a leg up, and we were able to address that and support a meaningful educational experience to our students. So what have we done to contain costs? We've worked with our bargaining units to change their health plans over the last several contracts. We moved to self-insured healthcare. We've reduced staffing in response to enrollment changes. We are going to be long-term looking at a demographic study along with our township. We are looking at doing a transportation study. We wanted to do that this spring. Obviously, it makes it more difficult when you can't interact with folks as readily as we would like to. Extensive program reviews, that's something we've really come to pride ourselves in, and looking at programs inside and out and made tweaks and adjustments as necessary. And long-term, also looking at our field trips. One thing we've learned through this is there's other opportunities for us to get exposure to the outside world. So we're going to be looking at that. And I just don't want to have test scores as an indicator of success, although they're important to us, meaning AP and SAT scores, while they're important, I really like to look at the results of our school climate survey, making sure that we are providing a challenging, consistent, and rigorous curriculum, our college acceptances, the postgraduate status of our students, the quality of co and extracurricular activities. All of these things are really what we look at in addition to just test scores. This budget does contain test reductions. Test reductions. Does contain staff reductions. It contains the reductions of 2 full-time teachers on the K-5 level, 2 full-time teachers at the high school, the reduction of 1 administrative position, and 1 secretarial position. And there you see the reductions, including their benefits through that. Again, last year we also made reductions to try to work within our budget parameters. What this budget does contain is contracted salary increases, health insurance increases, the purchase of 3 buses due to age restrictions, and you've heard about that, the realignment of existing TMS positions, to provide more mental health supports, the necessary paving that we've identified, and a minimal technology refresh. No new programs or services are being requested or planned. Again, you've seen this before, but this is our proposed budget for this school year. I'm getting into some of the nitty-gritty and the changes. These are our major budget categories. You can see the audited expenses, the approved expenses, and proposed expenses, and the percentage difference in all of those. Our district revenues from the original to proposed. Our use of fund balance. Now, this is where the budget has changed from the tentative budget. Based on a discussion that we've had through Finance and Facility, the administration is recommending an increase in the use of fund balance to decrease our tax levy. So this was changed from the tentative budget, and this anticipated surplus was increased by a little over $75,000 to bring the overall tax levy down to reduce the impact on our taxpayer. So surplus is monies that we have left over from the budget. We're anticipating that we will have some savings based on our reduction or lack of use of subs and transportation and things like that, that will enable us to put some monies into next year's budget. With that, though, a caveat. So we've had some discussions about putting surplus into the budget, used to balance the budget. We set a benchmark of $2.5 million as that. Going back to the other slide, we are at $2.7 million. So we're about $211,000 over what our benchmark was. Again, we expect to see some savings this year, but it's important that we recognize that we tried to identify some benchmarks that we will work through as we go forward and hit these going, year after year. So this budget does exceed that amount that we benchmarked by about $211,000, but I think we can deal with that. I would just like to recognize or talk about with the board as we get into other parts. Ooh, that slide didn't come out well. This budget isn't using any of the banked cap, which we'll talk about later. So we are using extra fund balance to help balance the budget and reduce the tax burden on our taxpayer. This is our capital reserve history over the last couple of years, and I apologize for the wonkiness on the bottom there. But Bob, I don't know if you want to just hit on a couple of the changes and things we spoke about earlier today.
We made the changes was from, we just put the slide back to the way it looked when we did the tentative budget. Earlier today, the $2 million deposit in 1920 is an estimate based upon how we're going to end out the school year. The $2.6 million of withdrawals is the capital projects we're doing regarding paving over the summer, this coming summer. So we're just showing what we anticipate possibly going in June and what is going to come out during the summer months of 2021.
Well, I just want to. Can I just say one thing? Sorry. One number, the top, the beginning balance for 2021, it didn't carry that 2 million. So,
Oh, yeah, that's correct.
but the ending balance is still correct.
That's right. That's right.
It should be 7.
We good with that, Bob?
Yep. Should be. The bottom should have carried forward. I'm not sure why. It's all wonky too.
All right, but we'll fix that when we post it. All right, thanks. Bill, you're good with that? With the revision?
Yep, thanks.
All right, bank capped history. This is the carrier. This was I alluded to before. As we go into uncharted territory, I just asked the board to consider if we get into a challenging year next year that we investigate the use of using this bank cap of $685,000 to help us next year with that. Again, who knows what the future, but we do have the ability to use bank cap if necessary. Something else, I got some positive feedback on this slide when we went through the tentative, just raising your awareness to where the individual tax dollars go in our 3 townships that we serve. Obviously, the school district is responsible for a large portion, but the municipal tax, depending on where you live, also is responsible for that, as are the county taxes. And this was an eye-opener to several residents who I spoke to, and their lack of control over the county taxes with that. So you'll see a little bit about how the county taxes have changed over the years on a future slide, but I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention. Here's an example of what that looks like. Here's the last 5 years of, there's a lot of information on this slide, but the 3 townships, one township and 2 boroughs that we serve, but the 3 municipalities that we serve, the schools and how they've increased over the years in those various areas, the fire district and Mercer County open space of how they've increased over the years. So just again, raising your awareness that the school district isn't the only one that impacts your property taxes. And it behooves you also to pay attention to other entities as they make decisions through this. So other big changes, the general fund tax levy history. Here you have the history for the last 5 years, but the general fund increase is 1.9%, bringing us in under the statutory cap of 2%, which brings down the total tax levy increase of 1.17%. 1.17%. And I don't know if anybody wants to discuss that. I know we had some discussion over the weekend and before that, but I think that was made as a nod to our taxpayers who are struggling during this time, as many of us are, and making sure that we are moving forward as best we can into support of that. Bob, did you want to jump in, or anyone from Finance and Facilities? Okay. And so this is where it comes down to, is our municipalities that we serve, looking at the increase. And this, how you calculate your increase is you take these pennies and you times them by 100 of your assessed value, and it will give you your school taxes. And you see the Pennington Borough, Hopewell Borough, and Hopewell Township. All right. Percent share, again, is another conversation that we have. We had Marty Gould come in from Mercer County Tax Assessor's, formerly of the Mercer County Tax Assessor's Office, to talk to us about the percentage share, how the budget is split up and how the enrollment is split up. And that is determined not by us. That is determined by a formula that was established back in the 50s. And Marty, I believe that was, I don't know if it was videotaped, but we certainly will have him back again because I think it was a very informative decision, a very informative presentation. And again, how the school district budget is split up between the three towns is determined not by us, but is determined by the Mercer County Tax Assessor's Office. Here's my cautionary tale. As we go down this road, if you are reading anything, we do not know what the future holds. As I mentioned in my report, I have no idea of when we are going to return to school, but I do know that school will look different when we do return. And I'm reading much of the same things that folks are, is the potential for mandating of smaller classes. Will that mean additional staff? Will we need additional bus runs to allow for a 6-foot separation of riders? What happens when we have folks who can't or choose not to return to work? Will we be staggering or running split schedules to reduce the number of students in our schools? That will double our bus runs and extend our school day. Are we going to be required to purchase masks or other health supplies as we work through this? I got a solicitation in the mail today about a kiosk that would scan everyone's temperature as they enter into the building. With that, everybody would put their face in front of it and would tell you their exact temperature. You know, how you do that moving forward with, 1,100 students walking through the high school virtually in 15 minutes, typically on a morning day. But these are all things to talk about. State aid payments, will they change? We've heard things about the government's developing a bridge budget, and state aid could change. Those are unknowns at this point. With that being said, we've assembled a return to school committee. They will be meeting. They have representative factors from all organizations in the district who will start trying to tackle many of these questions. There is a roadmap that's been developed for schools that we will be looking at and following as we go through this. Your guess is as good as mine in terms of when we return to school, but I can commit that we are going to do our best job possible to make sure that every student, every staff member is safe when they walk through our doors, and we're going to have the best situation possible for them. So with that, I present our budget to the Hopewell Valley Board of Education based on feedback that we've received. I think this is a budget that accomplishes all of our goals, and as an administrative team, we present this proudly to our Board of Education for your approval and or questions before you approve. So I'll leave it up in case anybody needs me to go back to slides, but I am open to any questions.
Please. So thank you very much, Dr. Smith, for the presentation and for many presentations leading up to this point, helping us to understand the budget and the process. Mr. Colavita, do we have any written comments from anyone? Any submitted questions?
I do not see any right at this moment.
Okay. And is that the process we will follow? Will we also take questions from anyone who is participating in the meeting now?
Thomas?
It's up to you, Deb. As I said, I think that it's I think it was a little wonky start as we get into this new remote. So if you're willing to entertain questions from, excuse me, if you're willing to entertain questions from out there, we're more than happy to answer anything.
Okay. So then with that, I will open up to public comment. Members of the public are invited to address the board on the 2021.
That's right.
Is that okay?
Yep,
Are we doing that?
Yeah, just the budget.
the budget. To address the board on the 2021 budget for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting, you are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Members of the public who intend to participate in public comment, please let us know and state your name and municipality, please. Okay. I don't believe we have anyone. I'll wait another second for any delay here. Okay. Mr. Calavita, should we first entertain board discussion before we move into the motion to move forward?
If there's any other, questions from the board, we'll take them now. If there's none, we'll go ahead with the adoption.
Debbie.
Board members? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Debbie.
Is that you, Adam?
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, I'd just like to say
Please.
one thing. I want to thank Tom and Bob for their leadership, both in our finance and facilities meetings as well as in our board meetings. This has been a much more extended budget discussion than it had been previously, but it's been very educational to me, and I hope to my fellow board members. I also want to thank the board members for their ideas during the process. And I just wanted to highlight two things that I think are worth discussing from that we talked about in finance and facilities tonight. Just one being, I myself have done. I've emailed questions to Tom and Bob. We talked about perhaps having a better mechanism for making sure that responses that individual board members get to questions are better transmitted, so the entire board gets to see, and have some more visibility of what the administration tells us. So we talked about a mechanism for that. So I think that will help, as a process improvement going forward for the board members. The other thing I'd say is we also talked about what Tom mentioned in terms of his return to school committee. And we talked about ways to help ensure that if any of those types of things comes up, that the board gets good visibility of what it means in terms of what we had planned to budget for versus what we're actually having to cover. So we have good visibility of that heading throughout the whole year and as we go into next year's budget cycle. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Sawicki. Any other members of the board have comments that they'd like to make regarding the budget or questions?
I'll just make a comment. I just, being new to the finance committee and the board, I just want to thank the administration and the board and the people on the committee for giving me a little leeway as I learned my way through this process and being willing to talk about things and look for new ideas all the way up until the very end. So I appreciate that we were able to find a little bit of common ground and get to something that we could all live with. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Herbert. Any other board members would like to comment or ask questions regarding budget? I actually have some comments I'd like to make unless anyone else had questions or comments. I just wanted to again thank everyone for their participation in this process. And I wanted to say that I will be voting to support this budget because I feel that it's a responsible one, and because I think our need as a board to work together and to support the needs of our students, particularly in these challenging times, overrides some concerns that I have had how we arrived to this point. I have a lot of respect for my fellow board members, and I think that we all believe that it is our job first and foremost to support student achievement and that to ensure that in doing so that the district budget is a responsible one for funds. And while we, as I said, may come at different perspectives, I think we all aim to consider the taxpayers' needs in doing so. We are all taxpayers, after all. As Dr. Smith mentioned, we did have some deliberations and decided to increase the use of our fund balance to lower the tax levy. And the original budget recommendation that was presented to us was actually to spend to the 2% cap and not to spend to the 1.9% where we ended up. And I believe that 2% recommendation was made with good reason. I don't believe it was made for the sake of spending to cap alone. But I, again, believe that our district supports, it strives to do its best to support student achievement, to retain and support highly qualified teachers and staff members, and to maintain our facilities, and felt that the best way to do that was to the 2% cap. The board spent many months analyzing this plan, and in my assessment, it was a reasonable one. And, you know, there's a lot of considerations that were taken into account, such as rising costs associated with salaries and benefits, you know, materials, transportation costs, so forth. And I guess, you know, what I'd like to say moving forward is I hope that we'll always have an exchange and we'll always have a give and take. But this notion of not spending to cap is not a new one to this board over the course of the last few years. And I just want to make sure that if we intend to go forward with that, that it's done for the right reasons and not done, you know, as a means of being politically expedient or other reasons. When we talk about the difference between 1.9% and 2%, we're talking about a difference of about $75,000. And while I think it's important to recognize our taxpayer in these difficult times, we're really talking about a difference of pennies to the taxpayer when we're talking about $75,000. But that $70,000 goes a long way with regard to district programming. That could be a teacher position, that could be maintenance that is sorely needed for our facilities. It could go to a number of things. It could go to you know, help to go towards expenses during this time of COVID. And so, you know, with all the questions that we have in front of us, I just want to be prudent about how we go about things. And I fear that if we continue to have these conversations about not spending to cap and about looking at that percentage merely as a percentage, that we might be doing the taxpayer a disservice. Because but when we spend below cap, there are things in our programming or in our projects that may suffer for that. We might not be able to maintain our facilities in the way that we should. And to me, that's doing a disservice to the taxpayer. So there's a lot of competing interests that need to be balanced. And I just ask that we move forward, when we move forward and when we work on next year's budget, and that process isn't that far off from now, that we'll be beginning work on the 21-22 budget, that we consider that, and that we don't look at the percentage and merely focus upon that, but that we think about, you know, what comes behind that percentage, and by reducing that percentage, what that means to the district and to the needs of our students and our facilities going forward. With that, do we have any other comments or questions from board members?
Yes, one more. I just want to say I don't agree with the argument that $75,000 is important to a $100 million school budget, but not important to a $100 and some $1 million tax budget for the towns. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, and I'd like to add, Deb, that I agree with much of what you said. I think I'm a bit disappointed in how late to the game these budget changes were made. And I guess my hope moving forward is that instead of, trying to make small cuts to pander to the optics for the community, what we do instead is, we really sit down as a board next year and, get creative and identify creative solutions and really dig deep into the budget. 80% of our budget is salary and benefits, right? So you're absolutely correct in saying that when you make a $75,000 cut, the taxpayers definitely don't see that, but it is detrimental to the school district in some way, much more than it is of value to the taxpayers. So I just hope that moving forward, we can all align and just really dig deep and get creative. And to me, that would be the true mark of leadership for our board.
Thank you, Ms. Grillo. Any other comments or questions regarding the budget?
Thank you, Debbie. I think you said a lot of what I would support as well. But I think it's important to recognize that this was a path that we had journeyed on in the past. And we avail ourselves, when we don't go to the 2% cap, we avail ourselves of the difference as banked cap. So recognizing that when we make a decision like this in the future, we may need to reach into bank cap for some of the additional expenses as everything goes up every year. Our largest source of expenses for our budget is our staff and salaries and benefits, and that goes up every single year. So just acknowledging that, next year, the year after, we could have to go back to the monies that we saved and utilize that monies in the future.
Thank you very much. Any other board member comments or questions regarding the budget? Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your participation. And with that, we will move on to the adoption of the budget. I would like to request a motion that the board adopt the resolution to adopt and approve the FY 2021 budget, annual school budget as presented. And I'd like to make a motion that we have a roll call vote to adopt the budget, please.
Second.
That was Elise moved
Col-
and Adam seconded?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll take
Mr. Colavita, could we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Mr. Herbert,
Yes.
Ms. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Mason. You said yes. Ms. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. O'Reilly,
Yes.
Mr. Swicky,
Yes.
Ms. Tracy,
Yes.
Ms. Grillo,
Yeah.
and Ms. Linthorst.
Yes.
The budget has been adopted. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Colavita. Thank you, board members.
Deb, just a procedural thing. I think I'm figuring out. If people tried to log in late while we were presenting, to prevent Google bombing, we have to click on anybody who comes into the meeting. So I don't think that they were seen. So I think that was one of the problems. So I've gotten a couple of emails. If folks try it again, we'll see. But we'll work on that in the future. Maybe to Bob's point, his suggestion earlier, maybe we'll run 2 meetings in the future to try to address that.
All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Colavita, do we now enter into our other session of public comment, or did I do that prematurely?
No, you're good. The second session of
Okay.
public comment right now.
Thank you. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Computer timed out again. 1 second, please. Members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by district administration. Do we have anyone for public comment or any other forms that were submitted?
Madam President, I do not see anything on the Google Doc at this point.
Okay. Thank you very much. So then we will move on to any items of old business. Seeing none, we will move to the consent agenda, please. I'd like a motion to accept the items on the consent agenda, please.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have any discussion on items on the consent agenda? Okay. Mr. Colavita, I believe we also need a motion to,
We gotta vote on that.
oh, I'm sorry.
The consent agenda.
All right. All in favor
Aye.
of accepting the consent agenda? Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries.
Okay,
We also need a motion for the acceptance of the donations, is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay, I would like to request a motion to accept the donations that are mentioned on the agenda for the from the robotics and for the robotics and baseball programs, please.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Okay, Finance and Facilities Committee. Mr. Sawicki, would you like to give a report, please?
Yes, absolutely. So in addition to discuss the budget discussion earlier this evening, a couple things I'll point out yet. For as you mentioned, we have two donations that we accepted. One was $1,550. It was actually an Eagle Scout project that had generated some additional funds, and those donations will be made jointly to the baseball team and the robotics team. And we also had a $3,000 donation from Dachi Senko Inc. To the robotics team. So, thank you to the community for the donations to our student activities. The other thing I'll point out, there were 3 items on the consent agenda related to some projects which will be done throughout the district. One is some plumbing work at the high school. Others is some carpeting work at the high school and some other buildings. And we also have some work planned at the old main entrance of the high school as well. And that comes from some funds that remain from the referendums projects, and that was planned to be done there. So those were the 3 items. Because of the COVID-19 base closure, we're actually able to start work on those projects a little bit earlier than originally planned. It had been planned to be done over the summer. So based upon that, that's why we have those contract awards. We had them on consent. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Mr. Sawicki? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the Personnel Committee. And I'd like to request, make a motion for a roll call vote. Like to request a motion, please?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Colavita, roll call vote, please.
And John.
Or shall we do discussion first? Shall we do the committee report first?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Ms. Murray.
All righty. Thank you, Ms. Linthorpe. We have a meeting today. We have several retirements that I'd like to acknowledge that are on the agenda this evening. As you had mentioned earlier in the meeting at your board presentation, we have Cindy Davidson, elementary teacher at Tollgate, who has been with the district since 1986. Karen Lucci, a science teacher at Central High School, who's been with the district since 1995. Marianne Calvo, elementary teacher at Stony Brook, who has been with the district since 1998. Lynn Angelis, who's an elementary teacher at Stony Brook, who has been with the district since 2002. I would like to thank them for their service. We'll be honoring all these retirees either in person or virtually at our June board meeting. We discussed the non-tenure review process that the administrative team completes on an annual basis. We were supposed to honor our teachers and support professionals of the year on March 16th, but unfortunately that was canceled due to COVID. We discussed recognizing our teachers and support professionals of the year virtually at our May board meeting, which I look very much forward to that. It's sad that we had to miss recognizing them at our meeting. We also discussed non-representative employees' salary increases for the 2020-2021 year. And something that was not on our agenda that I'd like to point out, I'm not sure if we discussed this at all in one of our board reports prior, but if you're paying attention to Facebook, you'll see one of our teachers, Mr. Sullivan, who has been producing on 3D printers from our district that we received from the HVEF. So kudos to them. He continues to make face shields to donate to the community, to the EMS, to the fire, police. And it's so amazing. Like every day we see reports in NewJersey.com, and what a way to really recognize our district and to represent our district. So thank you. That is all.
Thank you, Ms. Murray. One motion or two, Mr. Colavita, to cover the, we need the roll call to approve the personnel actions.
Yep, we got, the motion covers both agenda items. So
And the
we'll do-
extracurricular appointments. Okay, so roll call vote, please.
Ms. Long,
Yes.
Mr. Mason,
Yes.
Ms. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. O'Reilly,
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki,
Yes.
Ms. Tracy,
Yes.
Ms. Grillo,
Yes.
Mr. Herbert,
Yeah.
and Ms. Linthorst.
Yes,
Motion carries.
thank you very much. Education program committee items were all handled as part of consent agenda, and we did receive a report at Monday's meeting, but Ms. O'Reilly, did you have anything further to add?
No, we covered it all, and that's it. Right,
Okay.
Dr. Freeze? Nothing more.
Okay, thank you. Community relations, we also received a report last Monday. Anything else to add there, Ms. Long?
No, nothing new. We haven't had another meeting this week, so nothing new this week.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move on to policy, where we will need to have, this is now the second reading for the revised conduct of board meeting bylaw and the revised matters regarding executive session. We did discuss that last Monday's meeting, but just as a reminder, in order to move ahead with executive session remotely, we will need to make these recommended adjustments to the bylaws in order to enable that to happen. Did any board members have further question or discussion on that? Okay, so seeing none, I would like to request a motion for a roll call vote for the second reading on these policies and regulations, please.
So moved.
Second.
Do we have a, thank you. Second. Mr. Colavita, roll call vote for that, please.
Mr. Mason. Just a minute.
I'm here. Yes. Sorry.
Ms. Murray,
Yes.
Ms. O'Reilly,
Yes.
Mr. Sawicki,
Yes.
Ms. Tracy,
Yes.
Ms. Grillo,
Yeah.
Mr. Herbert,
Yeah.
Ms. Long,
Yes.
Ms. Linthorst.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Review of board calendars. I believe we still have some May meetings to schedule. Is that correct? Committee meetings? Or did we do them all last time? I think we still need to do, well, maybe not. We did 2 personnel committee meetings, correct? They're both scheduled. We have one for May. Policy, do we need another? We have May 1st, correct?
Yep.
So we're good. Were there any other meetings that needed scheduling?
I think, no, everything's good. Everything's good for May. And we can readjust for June.
Okay.
At our May meeting.
Safely take boots and bling off though for the 15th.
Yeah, I'll take that on.
Thank you, Dr. Treese. Okay, I would like to request a motion to accept the April and May calendars, please.
So moved.
Moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Motion carries. Any items of new business? And then seeing none, we will move on to another session of public comment. Do we have any other items of public comment? Any other emails that were received?
I do not have any emails. No, no Google Doc entries.
Okay. Are there any members of the public on the line that would care to make public comment? If so, members of the public are invited to address the board on any matter for a maximum of 3 minutes during this portion of the meeting. You are asked to state your name, address, and municipality. In response to your comments, the Board of Education may respond or direct the superintendent to do so. The board may also opt to take the matter up at a future meeting so that the matter is researched by the district administrator. Public comment is open. Seeing none, I would now like to request a motion to move into executive session, please.
So moved.
Second.
All
Okay,
in
now
favor? Oh, I'm
this
sorry.
this is going to be utterly confusing.
Yes.
So I sent you a separate invitation for executive session.
Okay.
You should have just received that. So we'll close this meeting out. This will be recorded. We'll be able to post this. But as we learned last week, the last person on the district level who closes out is the one who gets the recording. So we had a little glitch last time. So I think we're good this time, but we will check your email for the invitation to the executive session. We'll switch over there, and then you'll be good. Has everybody received an email?
Yes.
How about a calendar invite?
No.
Let me see.
Oh, got it.
Yes.
You got it?
Yes.
Yep.
Jenny?
Yes.
Yes, I have it.
Jenny?
Doesn't mean I'm going to make it there, but I have it.
You just click on it. You'll be good.
I will try. So we're signing out of this one.
Click off this one, click on to that one, and I'll be there shortly.
Goodbye.
Mr. Calavita, any advice as to whether or not we should adjourn the meeting by motion or
Can't adjourn it yet,
just
'cause
shut
it's still
down?
open. It's still
Don't
open.
adjourn it. Okay, so we'll have to come back over here?
And yes, you're supposed to. You were supposed to come back.
Okay. Thank
Okay.
you.
First aid hospital, this is Captain F-118. We have a patient with a penetrating chest wound, had surgical stand by.
This beach is bottoming out. Almost 1 liter syndrome. It's not gonna cut it. We're still 7 minutes out by my watch. He's got half of that. His chest is filling up with blood. That shrapnel from the clenches aorta. And you have no way of knowing. Through the door economy. Want to cut an opening under the ambulance? I could just widen the opening that's already there. That's a job for a surgeon. Pinch the aorta just above the injury. It's a job for a surgeon. And even if you're lucky enough to find it, what then? You're gonna cut off the circulation in his arm. Blood flow to the heart, lung, and brain. No, keep circling the drain. Do you want to think about it? He's a BTEC. He's about to go. Get some place to stabilize Peter. You do what you want. I'm doing this. Does that mean you have to do it? No. I did not lose cancer. She got in trouble once already. What the hell happened? He started crashing to his blood loss. His blood out of his stabilizing. Are you kidding me? That's a surgeon's job. Look, the job team's done it done well, so might as well tell us where we're headed. Hold on. Type in for us for 6 units. Page Dr. Royce, we got this minute. No, I got it. I don't know for half a second he calls before we move the ER. I'm on this train to end. Now which way? Go. What do you got?
Narcotic. In the field.
Oh, someone needed a challenge? I'm afraid I didn't have a choice. Shrapnel appears to have punctured or nicked the aorta, which I'm currently pitching off by hand.
All right, we're going to clamp the aorta directly above your finger. Whatever you do, counts well. You can let go now, doctor.
Doctor. Oh, sorry.
She's not a doctor. She's a paramedic brought him in. Apparently felt the need to break every rule in the book.
Well, you know what they say about rules. They were right about the shrapnel. Nice work. Firefighter.
Wilson, ma'am. Henrietta Wilson. I'm sorry. I didn't know what else to call. No, I'm glad you called. You said you needed some help. You know, I should be so lucky. I've been arguing with these doctors for the last hour. They won't release me. So they think you wasted a trip down here. Well, they probably know what's best. No. Release you when you're better. Kid, there is no better. This escalator's only going in one direction. It's mesothelioma. I got diagnosed last year. Actually, they tell me I lasted longer than they thought I would. Well, you know me. Stubborn. Don't ever want to quit. So now, no, there must be some kind of treatment, you know, something they can do to save me. 40 years too late.
You're very rude.
Yeah, I'm rude.
You don't do that with feeling.
I'm seeing you at the corner of my eye while I'm trying to look at something else.
Tom, can you mute your mic? You have the ability to mute your mic on that? Miss Murray, did you receive another link from Tom? There's Bob.
Elise, aren't you on the other side? Yeah, she's on the other side.
I never received a link to the other side. How do I get to the other side, Bob? Oh, I'm not supposed to be there? Okay.
He kicked Tony and me out.
I don't mind being kicked out.
I don't know what they're talking about.
Oh. They're talking about us. That's what they're no.
I can't tell which Elise is paying attention to. Is she paying attention to?
I don't know. Looks like she's in both.
What is Tom Quinn doing down there?
Anybody here? Rosetta?
I'm here.
Oh, good. We're back.
Okay.
All right.
Here we are.
Again.
Yeah, this is a little bit crazy.
It is, to say the least. Who did not make it over?
I think everybody made it. I'm counting.
Yeah, we all here?
2, 3,
Okay.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. You're good.
All right, thank you. I'd like to request a motion to adjourn the meeting, please.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Oh, abstain. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Good night.
Good night.
You want me to log out?
Yeah, you log out and I'll do it this time. But then I got to talk to you.
Okay.